Recognize Dr. Joyce from Pennsylvania for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you for yielding, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for appearing here today in front of us, Ms. Weingarten. Throughout the pandemic, we all heard, follow the science. In guidance released back in June of 2020, the American Academy of Pediatrics called for a return to in-person learning, and they further state in their guidance for safe schools and the promotion of in-person learning, quote, remote learning exacerbated existing educational inequities, was detrimental to educational attainment, and drastically worsened the growing mental health crisis among children and adolescents. Ms. Weingarten, do you agree that in-person learning provides the best educational opportunity for students?
Yes.
Do you agree that remote learning may exacerbate educational inequities, be detrimental to educational attainment, and worsen a growing mental health crisis in children?
Yes.
One of the worst side effects of prolonged school closures has been learning loss. Is a pandemic associated with learning loss? Is that real?
Well, yes, of course it's real.
I agree with you. It
but,
has been.
But what we also saw, sir, is that in places, and this is what I think the LCCR was getting to in the letter that they sent to the committee. Like, take a place like LA, which actually was closed for the whole 2021 school year, and yet its NAEP scores for English increased.
But overall,
wait,
you have
what
acknowledged
they did,
that pandemic is
no.
associated with, not
But
one
what-
instance,
but
not
what
one
they
instance.
did is
My time
they
is
did
limited.
the work.
The
They did the
pandemic
work.
is associated with learning loss, and that
But-
is real,
But what
correct?
I'm saying is
overall.
equity and poverty and other things are associated as well. This is what was so interesting about their results. They did a lot of this work. They fed kids. They made sure that kids had reading instruction. They made sure that kids had internet access. They actually did the equity work that the LCCR has been asking for and that we've been asking for. And what happened was
And yet, in face
they
of that,
did
please,
okay.
I'm on limited time. In face of that, the pandemic is associated with real learning loss, correct? Yes or no?
The pandemic, look, kids need to be in school.
Thank you. Let's
And
leave it
they
at that.
learn-
Kids need to
and
be
they-
in school,
and the-
and their
and the-
learning
and-
is better in school.
And the learning is better in school, of
Thank
course.
you. We agree on that point. The goal now has to be doing everything that we can do to provide students with the ability to recover these losses.
Completely agree.
Do you support adding additional time to the school day to help students get more in-person instruction time?
We are actually doing additional time
Great, I
during
think
the
that's
school
what the
day.
students need that. Do you
and-
encourage your members to teach during expanded summer school to help the students get that necessary, what you just described,
Yes,
that
sir.
needed in-person instruction time?
In fact, John King and I made that proposal in an April 2020 op-ed to have summer school even back then, because we knew the importance of kids being together. It's not just academic, it's the adolescent's development, and it's the relationship building.
I think
So we knew that.
that's so important. So to be clear, you do not support increasing access to additional educational services to correct for learning loss that occurred as a result of the school closings that your organization has advocated and supported. You are in favor of additional time in the classroom and expanded summer programs.
We
Is that
are
correct?
in favor of that. That's why we are calling for community schools and things like that. We are in favor of wraparound services and community schools and having additional time
Additional
available
time,
for kids.
summer training, I think that's awesome. The AFT, though, is inherently a political organization. In fact, political activism is in your mission statement. Is that correct?
Academic achievement, welcoming and safe environment.
Is political
There are
activism
many-
in your mission statement?
There are many things in our mission statement, sir.
Including political
Including
activism?
Political
activism.
Including
So-
ensuring that people have a voice, yes.
So political activism is part of who you are. CDC guidance, especially guidance based on complex immunology and epidemiology, requires scientific expertise. And earlier in your testimony with us here today, you said, most of us aren't scientists. Does the AFT employ any epidemiologists?
Yes, we actually consulted with epidemiologists.
Does the AFT employ immunologists?
Yes, we consulted with immunologists.
In-house, do you employ any infectious disease specialists?
We have people who are industrial hygienists, yes.
Do you have any board-certified pediatric infectious disease specialists on your payroll?
Not on, in consulting with them, yes.
Do you have anyone with experience with treating novel coronaviruses?
To the extent that there was any expertise in the country, yes.
Wow. I'm a physician, and I knew of no one who had any experience treating novel coronaviruses. If you don't have the
Sir,
ability...
I just said, to the extent that it was available.
There was none available. There was none available, and yet you...
I can give you the names of the people that we relied on.
Great. Forward those to us, please.
Would you like me to say them publicly
No,
so
I'd like
that
you
you
to
hear
forward
them?
that because my time is limited. You also talked about over-reliance of kids spending too much time on electric devices, and you pulled up your phone just like I'm pulling up my phones. But they need to be connected person to person. And I think we can all agree that removing students from in-person learning has really accelerated the issues affecting mental health that you, Ms. Weingarten, have mentioned repeatedly throughout this. And the only conclusion that I can make as a doctor, as a parent, and as a legislator, that the AFT recommendations harmed so many children. And I think we have to learn, we as a select subcommittee have to learn, and we have to move forward when faced with a crisis like the pandemic was. We have to understand that those who are not susceptible to this must remain in school. Those students have suffered, and we're waking up time, we're making up that lost time, and we need to do that in a conjoined effort. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield.